should be. We have technological advances. We have all these gimmicks and cell phones and computers and, and fast-moving 300-mile-an-hour Japanese trains on, air. And, well, it's wonderful. But our humanities have not have not really stayed in step with our advances in science and in technology. And that's where we're lacking. And the proof is in these artifacts, these places like Machu Picchu, and if you go over to dig up the sands in Babylon area, you'll find these amazing things, and of course, temples and so forth around Egypt. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Those places fascinate me, and I can never read enough about them because what fascinates me is a lot of those places were built and they hadn't even invented the wheel yet. So how do they build? You're talking complex buildings that I don't even know if we could even build them today with the equipment we have. It'd be a challenge, I would think. And you're talking about
humongous.
Yeah, and you're talking about people like you said, slaves supposedly. Come on. There's more to it than that, obviously. And if you look back, we were in a horse and buggy at 1800s before the turn of the century, and you fast forward 60, 70 years, and we went to the moon. That's a heck of a jump.
Yeah, you bet.
That's a heck of a jump with technology, so to speak. And then you look 50 years from that, and we haven't did nothing. What do you think about that? I mean, we haven't went to the moon again. We haven't. What's the holdup? What do you think?
What I've read on the internet doing research is that there are people of the opinion that Neil Armstrong, the first one on the moon, and his compatriot actually saw, not too distant from their capsule, they saw spaceships. And it appears as though we are not particularly looked with favor upon to return there by whoever is in those spaceships who controls them. And possibly we have dampened at the very highest levels, we've dampened our enthusiasm for asking Congress for billions and billions of dollars to go up there and maybe run into some badass aliens that will destroy our capsule and our return ship and call it a day.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare for sure. Geez,
that would be a nightmare. I mean, it would tell, and the government would have to, of course, cover it up with another, story, another PR story, short story, and there we go, billions of dollars and men's lives, and then the FOIA comes out, Freedom of Information Act, to find out that it was a big cover-up,
Yeah, maybe 70 years from now, if they let you. What's not blacked out?
Right. Right.
What's not all blacked out from it, right?
Yeah.
So what are you researching now? What's your next venture? What are you looking into now?
Well, I did something interesting. Goodreads readers are around 4 or 5 million right now. I really hadn't promoted either one of these books, this one or the one about Edgar Allan Poe, the reincarnation of Edgar Allan Poe, which is totally paranormal, except that it's documented in this case instead of just my theories. I've decided to promote via them because they're avid readers, and I stopped promoting via Facebook and stopped promoting via LinkedIn and these other social media because I don't know who's out there who's even interested, but these people are avid readers. And so I gave away 100 copies of the book, the Confessions of an Alien Marooned on Earth, and 370 people wanted to get a copy. So some they didn't luck out, but at least they know that the book exists, and maybe I'll get some sales from that and some interest. But I'm doing that. That's about all I'm doing. I've done all this work to get the work out there. Now I need to promote it. No one's going to do it for me. As far as new books, I do have 2 new books out, but they're in the nonfiction genre, and one has to do with my experiences as a chauffeur for 4 years, called The Careless Driver, And now I'm writing The Careful Driver, which gives motorists a chance to see how expert drivers look at the driving scene in the United States and what they can do to minimize their chances of ever having a collision with a person, animal, or another vehicle or object. So that's due out in about a month and a half, 2 months. So that's what I'm working on now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a book out called How to Stay Healthy Till We Die, which is a primer for youth. Basically covers the things that I went through in my formative years and I had to suffer through for various reasons, which are in the book, and how I overcame them. I don't know if this means anything to you, if you're interested. I had contracted scarlet fever when I was 4, nearly died. I had a turned-in left foot, which had to be corrected. I had optical situations, which mandated I wore glasses in elementary school, which the kids all made fun of, the 4 eyes thing. And I've overcome all those. I've come over all those handicaps, you might say, and then some. Some I'm not going to mention. And I'm living a much, much healthier life. So I decided to put everything into that little primer and publish that as well. So those are the last 2 books I published, and the new one coming out will come out in about a month and a half. And I hope people look it up on Amazon.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing.
And the book you wrote about, what was it, the alien that got lost or crashed here? Is that what you said, I believe?
Yeah, Confessions of an Alien. It's 50% biographical, and 50% is, science fiction. And you'll find every author writes to some degree, some biographical information into his stories, whether it's a character that they admired, whether it was an ally when they were younger, whether it was some place that particularly was memorable to them that they went, or some experience that they had. They include it. They weave it into their stories. And a great example of this is James A. Michener. A lot of his monumental novels are from him going to actual places and researching his works and talking with the natives, like in Hawaii, or his book about Chesapeake, which is about the area near Washington, D.C., the Chesapeake Bay, and the Indians during the 1800s. He goes there and he talks to people, and he interviews them and takes notes from older people in their 80s and 90s who remember being told stories by their fathers and grandfathers. So this is this is indigenous information. And then he writes a story and concocts characters around the story of what they tell him, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And people just ate it up. People in the 60s, 70s, and 80s just ate up his work. It was phenomenal. Well, a lot of it's, either biographical or autobiographical. And so that's what I decided to do. I mean, you know best about yourself, right? What experiences you've had. So you can fill up many, many interesting pages by just changing a couple of names and a couple of places. And, people like it.
Sounds like a good premise. I mean, honestly, and whenever you wrote the book with the marooned alien, what was your inspiration? Where'd you get your material from to write that book?
Oh, well, the science fiction part of it, I've done extensive. I told you I've had seances. I went to seances when I was younger. The big rock thing. Let's see what else. Man, I used to like astronomy. I used to gaze upon the stars and wonder about Egypt and the great astronomers from that period, the Babylonian period, where the astronomers were held in very high degree. They were next to the king. They were ranked as high as, I guess, his advisors. The kings would go and submit questions about the future to these astronomers, and they were also astrologers. They're very closely related. And I would read about them and get very interested in all that, information. So, in part of the first book, I talk about the Egyptian influence on the seances that my anti-hero goes to. He goes to a seance to see if he can contact one or more members of his society that might be here on Earth like him, and find out maybe how together they can conspire to get back to his planet, see? But he finds out, first of all, that this medium, Madame Chartreuse, she's right on the ball. I mean, she's right there. She is not fooling around. There's no hocus pocus. She contacts, interestingly enough, another student on his campus, Joshua, but calls him by his correct name when he was on cellular, and that clicked. He goes, hey, she knows this guy when he was my friend back on my other planet. And she gives him the name. He goes, that's true. That's the guy. That was we spent many lifetimes together there. So she starts to become an opinion leader for him. And he has another seance later on in the book. But this one was enough to convince him that she knew that he was from another planet and was okay with her, and she knew where the planet was, but she didn't know how far away it was, and that's what he has to find out in the rest of the story of that book and the next book. He has to find out how far away it is, where it is, and then either develop, find, or make himself, a device for getting back.
Jeez. Well, let me ask you this, Charles. How many seances have you actually been a part of?
I went to two that I remember, and interestingly enough, I went with my minister of my church. He was also interested in this paranormal thing. Very straight-laced guy, married with 4 children, but, he's the kind of guy that he could bend with the breeze, And I went with him, and it was pretty hokey. I don't think it was real. It just didn't hit me as being something that didn't hit me. I was too young probably to appreciate it if there was some reality to it. But I went to 2 of them, and I saw how the medium operated. It was always in the dark, I would rather have seen her face. I'd rather have seen the faces of the people around the table, and I would rather have heard something other than her being the medium or the funnel through which the voice of the departed came,
Right.
So, but I decided to use that experience in the story because I did have the experience and it was real, and possibly there are some people that, according to Sylvia Brown, she has a medium that tells her all about the celebrities and who they're going to be in the next lifetime,
You ever notice everybody in their past life was never the one that, walked behind the horse and cleaned up the mess? It was they're always
right.
queens or kings.
Right. And the reason I found out for that is that the stellar identities are so stellar that they draw to them as like a magnet many, many other lesser identities that want to live on, beyond their meager existence. So they go, yeah, I was Napoleon. I remember that. I remember Waterloo.
Yeah. No, I wasn't the one that followed behind the horses and cleaned up and everything.
No, that wasn't me. No, I didn't clean up the trees. That wasn't me. No.
I wasn't one of the 20 million slaves that built the pyramids.
No, I'm above that. My family DNA is much better than that.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So you never had any paranormal experiences at these seances anyway, from the sounds of it?
No. I have had, to be truthful, I have had a couple of very quick communications from one from my mother, she's deceased, and one other one. I can't recall what it was, but it was real, and we just kind of said, we'll see each other down the line in the future, and let it go with that. I mean, she didn't materialize in the room, Mm-hmm. I don't think she had the strength to do that, but it was real, And I know other people have had even more substantial experiences than that, and I'd be the last one to tell them no. You were just imagining that. Far be it from me to say that, because I know this was real.